that was a good question, though. So I would like to ask everybody my next question. Where does mental health stem from? Where do you, your personal opinion, where does it stem from? Like, you're not born with mental health issues, so where does it stem from?
I can say mine. I was born into trauma. My mother.
Into it.
Yeah.
But you like not. You didn't come out the womb like some. I got all these like. You born into it, but it's not like while you're in the womb, you don't have mental health issues. But when you're born into a situation, do you feel like you had issues within the womb of your mother?
Yeah, I feel like it was inherited. I've been told that it can be inherited.
Like passed down.
Passed down. My mom had a baby at 14 years old and was sent away, so she was suffered from depression at an early age. So if you're pregnant with a child, the baby can feel all your hormones and stuff. So I feel like I had a good life growing up till I was 5, and then my mom abandoned us. So when I turned 29, that's when I had a mental breakdown. And I was told that I had been depressed and had anxiety since the age of 5. So I didn't know, and the lady said, well, even babies can be depressed.
That's it.
Lack of love and affection. So
and you didn't recognize it until 29.
Till I was 29, I thought feeling depressed, I didn't have nothing to compare it to.
You just thought it was normal.
I thought it was normal. And when I turned 27, I started saying something ain't right. I only had one good week out of the month. I thought it was PMS. And when I called Red Rock, and they would make an appointment for me, and I'm like, no, I'll come, but I never did go. I just kept putting it off, and the lady said, no, PMS don't last for 3 weeks out of the month. Something's not right.
What about you, Vannice?
I'd agree. I feel like for me personally, though, it stemmed from life circumstances. I would say trauma. A lot of time trauma induced. So for me, like I've went through like domestic violence. I had a domestic violence marriage. I left that, but I also went through workplace discrimination, and that was going on at the same time. And so, that was a difficult, time for me, but I feel like that's where a lot of my mental health issues had stemmed from. However, piggybacking on what Mrs. King had stated, the older that you get, the more that you start really sitting down and learning yourself, and putting pieces of the puzzle together, the more you start kind of pay attention and looking back in hindsight about some of the things you growing up. So I pay a little bit more attention to my parents now and ask them a lot of different questions. And, and even my grandma before she passed away. So honestly, some of it did stem from my parents as well. Like my dad, he lost his mom at the age of 6, and then he lost his dad at the age of 16. He was a junior in high school. And so, that's kind of dealing with some rejection and, having to go through some things like that. And so if you don't heal that at whatever time, then you are going to pass that down to not necessarily purposely, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and unintentional.
Yeah, so that was from my dad, and then also from my mom. My mom also had neglect from her dad. My grandpa had neglected my grandma and, my uncles and my mom. And so, they deal with some different, anxiety and trust issues and stuff like that. So it was my own personal, but it can make it a little bit more difficult for you to handle the circumstances when you are presented with those in life, because you already have that chemical imbalance, so to speak, within you. Because when a woman is pregnant, she's sending those particular things, and that's another reason why I refuse to have, I had refused when I was married at the time or whatever to have kids. So I was like, this is gonna be an effed up environment for that, you know what I'm saying, for the baby. I was like, I can't do that shit. Oops.
No, you're fine. I'm like, when these out here cursing, oh Lord. Yeah, amazing. So, Darrell, what about you?
I kind of want to build on the first and the response before. You know, and I was thinking about the question. At first, it was one of those situations of, you know, you experience it, you know, or you realize that you're experiencing it after the fact. Like,
sure.
oh, I'm depressed, or oh, I'm in this situation.
Yeah.
And then you start to figure out that it's your ability or, you know, you're not being able to cope with. And when I say cope, I mean figure out a way to, you know, navigate those conditions and constraints. And that does come from, you know, your experience as a child, you know, starting in the womb. You know, we learn off of our mother's emotions, you know, as we're inside of it, you know, and them, a lot of us in our community, you know, being born out of inconvenient situations.
Yeah.
You know, that's them not having the ability to cope with their stressors and their environments. And that's something that we feel we're born into. And so as we grow up, we are constantly dealing with or under the protection and care and provision of adults, you know, parents, caregivers, you know, everything in between who are struggling to cope with their everyday life. And so we grow up lacking those skills.
Skills, yeah.
It's one of those, you know, situations. It's a mountain turned into a molehill.
See, I knew y'all was perfect for this. What about you, Dr. Tuepenz?
Man, everybody has such, you know, eloquent answers. I guess mental health, how I see it, I kind of see mental health like,
Now, where does it stem from?
oh, where does it stem from? Where does it stem from? I guess it's something you're born with. I kind of think of it like when you start the game, the Ninja Turtles game. You remember that game back in the day? You play Ninja Turtle game. You start off, you got this much energy. Then you get hit by a foot soldier, you lose it. Then you get you some pizza, and you get more energy. It's just kind of like an up and down thing. You're born with this much mental health. You got this much strength, but then this happens. That's trauma, so it sets you back a little bit on your mental health. Then this happens, and that's trauma. To set you back a little bit, but then you learn to cope with that. Then you get through that trauma. Now you're getting your health back. That's you getting the peaks and so on and so forth. So that's kind of how I see it, like the little energy thing at the top of the screen.
Amazing. So my short answer to that is I agree with all y'all. I feel like all mental health stems from trauma. And although, like I said, anecdotal experience, working in group homes, working with kids for so long, every kid that had major issues, it reflected his trauma, and it was almost identical. So even myself personally, it's like, and like y'all said, like your parents don't know that they're putting this trauma on you, then you're passing it down. It's whenever you identify is when it cuts off. So, and once you identify, you need to come up with a solution. So let's move on to this next question. Y'all doing a really great job. I'm proud of y'all.
Sandwich with the wrong side of the bread. Thought I made it by a landslide, but instead I'm still hungover. Sometimes I make the wrong phone call after dark. Sometimes I make the wrong turn, then I have to pause. I know exactly how this ends, but I have to start.